So now we're going to move to the Columbia Road project. The DDOT wants to inflict on this neighborhood. I think it would change the way we live in this neighborhood and the things that we have in this neighborhood. It's dramatic. I think it's going to put businesses out of business because it's going to take away the parking that they depend on. In particular, the Road Latino businesses across from the Safeway and the CVS. You know, we used to have a large Latino population in this neighborhood. No longer, they've been priced out. But the businesses are still there, and the folks who used to live here still come and go to those businesses. But they're not going to be able to do that if there's no place to park their cars. And I've sat on that street and parked in those places, secret here, when I go to Popeyes for a snack on my errands. You know, so I see what's going on. And I've lived here for a very long time. So anyway, that's one of the things. Just, what about So's Your Mom? And yes, and so forth, you know. All those businesses will have their parking taken away, and there will be bike lanes sitting there. True that bike lanes may have some folks using them in rush hour, but the rest of the day, going to sit empty. I've witnessed this all over town. It's a complete waste of roadway capacity. And the WABA folk got their people out to these different meetings around the city when the city was looking at this whole Vision Zero and other similar ideas that you could completely eliminate traffic fatalities and injuries, which it's a very laudable goal, but it's impossible to totally eliminate them. You've got to just face facts. But that's not a reason to not try to do something. But to do something that will totally change, you know, like, there are too many vehicles in Adams Morgan, and then those who wish to come here, particularly to go to all of our ABC establishments and shop at other locations in the neighborhood, that there's just not enough parking here. So then you're going to take away huge swaths of it. You know, it's going to hurt the businesses, even the ABC businesses, which some of them I wouldn't care if they went away, you know, but they're going to be hurt because it's just too much of a reduction. And DDOT wants to put in a whole bunch of loading zones, which you would never be able to park in the daytime. So, but these little businesses that I was referencing, they generally, like, go to a supply house with the family station wagon and come and unload in the back. Like, So's Your Mom. That's, you know, that's exactly what they do. And there might be, like, a small truck in front of Yes for half an hour. 15 minutes unloading, that kind of thing. So, you know, it's all a huge overreaction. I don't know if you've had a chance to read the things, the main points that I covered on this agenda. Do I need to talk about it, or can we just assume that everybody's...
No,
we read it.
Okay, appreciate that. So, but just so it'll show up in the minutes, I'm not going to read the whole thing, I'm just going to touch on each subject. So the street parking on Columbia Road would be reduced by 135 spaces. And the distance between bus stops, like I see there's one of our members here is in a wheelchair. I hope you recover quickly. We have another member who actually lives in the same co-op who sometimes comes, and she's in a wheelchair also. You know, and numerous of us are older. I mean, I'm getting up there. And you can't walk longer distances. It's really tough on you to have to, you know, like reducing the number of bus stops from 6 on each side of the street to just 4. So, you know, that's really a bit much. But then, you know, like to move the one in front of Streets Market, it's going to be alongside the Georgian apartment building right out here, where the sidewalk's about 4 feet wide. But instead, it's, you know, where it currently is a big 30-foot wide sidewalk. It's just insanity. And the parking, the bus stop that's in the little triangle park in front of the 7-Eleven at 19th and Wyoming, that's going to be moved. That's the one that's moving up to here. I mean, I'm not sure exactly what, you know, they're cutting away 2 and putting 1 sort of in between. But the 2 that they would take away are the most useful ones in the neighborhood. It's just astounding. So, you know, we got to get people's attention on this. Our ANC is complete loss on this, sorry to say. You know, you can talk till you're blue in the face, but, you know, if it's
Do they
pro-Biden,
not understand it at all? They don't care?
They've been fought on Wawa. There's a lot of members against, elected by Wawa constituents.
so I'm just going to keep running through, just to say, make sure that we can say that we had discussion of the whole thing. Oh, yeah, so, you know, in recognizing that they've removed a lot of parking spaces, DDOT is saying, oh, well, what we can do is turn the first block of Ontario north of Columbia into one-way coming out of Linear Heights onto Columbia Road. And that way we can park on both sides of the street instead of just one. But in so doing, how the hell do you get into your streets that you live on? How do you get to your garage, you know, if you can't drive into the neighborhood? There's about 4 locations where you can enter Linear Heights. You know, and if you take away one of them, it's just not good. And another thing is that, you know, this is going to make traffic grind to a standstill. It'll be slower than it is now. They're complaining that it's slow. The buses go 5 miles an hour. Well, I examined the DDOT's, all of its paperwork today. So they had little sections. They go this many miles per hour between these stops. And while it's true that there were some as low as 5 miles an hour, there were some that were as high as 20 miles an hour too. So they're just talking about the worst. So they're lying. They are actual liars. You know, if you average it out, it would probably be something like 12 or 15 miles an hour. How fast do you need buses to go in a congested neighborhood like this? You know, they shouldn't outpace the people who are trying to catch them. So anyway, their plan would lead to people leaving Columbia Road, and this is trying to go through the side streets, which will just bring more congestion into the residential side streets. If anybody has any further points about this, I'll be glad to consider them. Yes?
Yeah, one of the things that they're doing in the Columbia Road section from Belmont to Connecticut is proposing a bus lane that would eliminate parking in a section, the last section,
Yeah.
where people have no access, rear access, and so there would be no parking for moving trucks, no parking for deliveries, let alone elimination of residential parking, you know, which is already, you know, pretty severe. So, and actually the Department of Transportation told me that just putting the bus lane in would save literally 60 seconds of bus travel time between 19th and Connecticut Avenue, while completely screwing the people who live there that need to have parking access.
Yeah.
And I was basically told, well, moving trucks can park across the street and they can just,
Yeah.
you know, bring things across the street, and the new bike lanes and the bus lane.
Well, they are, my understanding is, and I could be wrong, is that from 19th down to where Columbia meets Connecticut, it's really California Street.
Right.
There won't be a bike lane. I mean, maybe it'd be painted, but it won't
It'd be a bus lane,
There'll be a
bus and bike is what it would be. And they've got it, they've now got it starting at Wyoming, going down to California, but, yeah, I mean, the thing is, you know, they say that in one of their documents that they really need for delivery trucks to have parking access, while they don't care about residents who need parking access.
Well, exactly, like, can you have a guest? Can you have
Yeah.
a home health care aide? Can you have somebody come to fix your toilet? You know, et cetera, et cetera. And you get the packages too, you know. So you live close to the 7-Eleven, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, and Peter Crawford is here,
Yep, yep.
the president of the Oakland condominium, and we got folks from the Wyoming here. Was there anything you'd like to add to all this? Because I did send around our resolution, which was from last fall. Peter, go first.
Just want to, first,
Want to come up?
thank you, Dennis for putting this on the agenda. And thank you, Greg, for summarizing that issue. But since this bus priority project, which is sort of a wolf in sheep's clothing, it's sort of hiding a bike lane project underneath it. Since it began, it originally started with them all the way from 16th Street to Connecticut Avenue. We're going to have this sort of express bus lane going through. Well, block by block, segment by segment, they slowly realized, well, it doesn't work here, it doesn't work here, it doesn't work here, it doesn't work here. Now, largely what's left is the segment from 19th Street to Connecticut Avenue. And all of about 700 feet, but which is really going to speed transit times from 16th Street to Connecticut Avenue, isn't it? So that's a big, big issue. But the pain that it's going to cause in the neighborhood for doing that is huge. And it's not just the inconvenience, it's just not the dysfunction that it's going to cause, it's also the impact on people's property values. Because if you can't park in a neighborhood, it's going to be really hard to sell your condominium in this neighborhood. And I say that as a realtor in the neighborhood.
Thanks for
One other
revealing
thing.
that. Yeah.
So, thank you, KCA, for the resolution you previously passed and for what I think you're going to pass tonight. And I also want to let you know that there was a petition and a letter signed by the boards of Condo Association on Columbia Road that represent about 325 households. That letter has been sent to some of the city officials. We back that up now with a petition. I welcome you. The petition's in the back of the room on that lectern. If you go out, or you can hit the QR code with your phone and sign it that way. But your support would be greatly appreciated. Thanks.
Dennis, can I be a show for a minute?
Yeah, Mary Belcher.
I wonder why there are no Department of Transportation officials here tonight, Mr. James.
Oh, well, I did invite Kevin Harrison, the DDOT designer of this project, and he was out of town. And then I said, is there anybody at DDOT who knows how to talk about this? And his second in command said that he had to go to a school fair, for his child, as did a third person. But we'll be glad to come next month. Well, we're not talking about it next month. We're talking about it now. So I even copied the chief of staff of DDOT because they've just lost their director. It hasn't. I'm not sure it's happened, but it's reputed to be happening. So there's no point in writing to Locke, who is their director. Okay?
Yeah, I'm not clear. DDOT seems to be the principal moving force behind this, but you've got Lomata that's involved, you've got, I don't know what other agencies, but it's clearly that there's more than one agency involved, but who is the person to whom we should direct our ire at their
Well,
ridiculous
it's on, I ask everybody to write emails to the folks on the back of our agenda. I mean, our council member today is listed, but she came out in favor of this the day that Mr. Harrison wrote an email to Peter Wood, the chair of our ANC, saying, here's the finished plan.
I'd like to follow up on this issue. Who can stop this right now?
I think the mayor.
The mayor?
Yeah, now that John Kachikio's in some beat doo-doo, he was her hatchet man and would do some things sometimes if enough emails were sent. Nick, yeah, this is Nick Deladone from the...
Thank you for all the hard work that you're doing, and my heart is warmed by the fact that you're so articulate in what the problems are. We have formed a coalition around the city. We're all suffering on each neighborhood where they install these things the same way. You lose your parking, you lose access to the curb. They decided that the curb is the best place for the bikes. Well, it's the best place for the rest of us too. If you're a handicapped person and you want to get on the bus on K Street on Mount Vernon, there's a bike lane in your way. You have to cross the bike lane to get into the bus. And when the bus stops to pick you up, it stops all the other traffic behind it, because now there's only one lane. Last October, the Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris, was caught stranded in the tunnel on Virginia Avenue near the Watergate when her motorcade hit the bike lane. They used to have 2 traffic lanes going in each direction under that tunnel, and they decided that one should be a bike lane. So they put in these concrete curbs, and the motorcade hit it, and she was stranded there, her whole motorcade. Well, what's going to happen when you try to get to the hospital? We have a lot of senior centers. This is in Podunk, Ohio. It's the center, the seat of government. And we have to respect that. So we're all suffering, and the emergency evacuation routes have gone on back. Virginia Avenue is an emergency evacuation route. Connecticut Avenue is an emergency evacuation route. If there is an emergency like a hurricane or a terrorist attack, we're all going to get stuck. And we are visiting. Let me tell you what you can do. You say, how can we stop this? We have made a plan to visit all the council members because they have influence. They're going to be holding hearings to see why they're not achieving Vision Zero, which is 0 fatalities and the traffic. And the reason is because of this bike lane. It makes things more dangerous. This is not just an inconvenience, it is a hazard. And they're puzzling, what can we do to get to Vision Zero? And the figures are going up instead of down. Well, we're going to give testimony, and you want to sign up to give testimony to. That's one thing that we can do. The fact that the director could not achieve this plan is a good sign that people are waking up. They want to blame him because he was an ineffective administrator. But the task is impossible. Now, it stresses me, I don't need to talk forever, but I love children. You probably have grandchildren. You love them too. 100 years ago, there's a social movement to establish playgrounds so that children would be out of the way and safe. They are not safe in the street. Do I have to explain that to you? The street is not a playground. Now we have armies of parents who want to lay claim to the bike lane because it's protected. It's protected for who? It's dangerous for adults, and now you want to put your precious child in the bike lane and teach them how to ride a bike. If they succeed, it will fall its own weight. So another thing you can do is have rallies, and we will be organizing them around the city. On Tuesday last week, we had a rally on Connecticut Avenue, a 3-mile stretch. They want to put bike lanes there. How are people going to get in and out of the city? If you're going to work in D.C., you may be coming from another site. You may have to drive to work. I'll tell you, the adventurous bikers avoid their bike when it rains. They may also have a car. These are not poor people. So I've said enough. I encourage you to look at our website. We just changed our name to DC Safe Streets Coalition.org. Look for that, sign a petition. My friend Pete has done so much hard work to get people together. We are the strength. The director of DDOT is not a pillar of strength. The mayor is not. The council is not. We are the strength. We need to stick together. We need to organize. We need to do things collectively, and we will change their minds. That is the goal. So
That's what we're doing tonight. And I will share the information that you just spoke, the next time I write to the members, which is going to be within a day or two.
Yeah, one more real quick point.
Sure.
Harrison of the Department of Transportation said that they're going to come out with their most up-to-date plan probably sometime in November. So now is the time for folks to get on the record and be contacting people because, folks need to hear our concerns, but also if they're not responsive, we have to make our voices heard to make them responsive. And if they don't listen to us, that's another point for us.
Yeah.
To go to, the mayor and others.
Make an alliance with his association and with the Connecticut Avenue folk who are complaining. I mean, that's one of the major commercial streets of our city. And they're going to, the vehicles are going to be sort of sent off into the residential streets, like Reno Road. And now, we were told we can't drive on most of Beach Drive because it was going to be for bicyclists and recreation and so forth. So, you know, that would be a place you could say to the bicyclists, okay, maybe we don't need bike lanes on Connecticut. Go down and ride on Beach Drive. That's not good enough. It's got to be, you know, all or nothing with these folks. Bill, speak up too.
Two questions. What are the criteria that the DDOT people are using to come up with a plan? And number two, who on this list will listen to anything other than it's all for the budget? Who will
So
listen?
what Bill's asking, what are the criteria that DDOT is using to do this? So I'll try to answer the parts that I know. So in all there's like 4 or 5 major documents. There's, you know, their intentions, their outreach, their initial study, their refined, their final. So that's a lot to look at. It's all like 5 PowerPoints, 20-odd pages each. But buried in it somewhere is crash information for Connecticut and Columbia Road. And if you look at it, you know, it's almost all car-based, but DDOT is saying, oh, there's too many collisions between bicyclists and pedestrians, you know. And it's, I don't know, but I've got a sneaky suspicion that it's folks who've been drinking in bars who are going home in a sloppy way and bumping their bicycles into other things. You know, maybe not all, but we'll find out because I'm going to ask for it. And I'll FOIA it if they're not ready to give it up. So who could, you know, I think you have to, if you're going to fight something, you have to go after everybody who's involved. So Nadeau needs to hear from her constituents that this is not good for our neighborhood. You know, you don't live here, Brianna, you know, it's simple as that. We know what it's like. We've lived here, everybody in this room, for a long time. So, you know, we know the effect it's going to have. And then, you know, I would add the mayor to this. When I write to everybody, I'll say, write to the mayor. And I do know her new chief of staff a little bit. So maybe we'll copy her too.
Who will we vote in a resolution at this meeting?
Okay, so what I'll do is mesh this with our existing resolution so there's no duplication. There's a little bit of newer information on this, I think, because of the changes that we made. So those in favor of that and then sending it to the powers that be, please raise your hands. Appreciate it. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. And did you say you're not? Okay, so 19. But I'm in favor. Okay. Well, you can write. But not at a meeting, I'm sorry, that's our rules. You have to,
Okay.
yeah?
We need the keys to get her out of the,
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
sorry.
so that endeavor was approved 19-0. Well, was anybody opposed? 19-1. Thank you. And thank you for your comment.